Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Kim and today I am going to show you how to make paper garland or paper decorations just like this one. These kind of paper decorations are pretty fun to make and I like this because it is a relatively simple idea that you can do a lot of fun things with. To make this craft, you're going to need some different resources. You will need some scissors to cut your shapes, some glue to help glue the pieces together, a string, and this kind of string is not as thin as something you might put in a sewing machine, but not as thick as like a worsted weight yarn. So you're going to get some kind of string, whatever color you like, and you're going to need some kind of decorative paper. I'll talk about this more in just a minute. Finally, what you're going to need is something to help you trace whatever shape it is you want your garland to be at the end, right? So I'm going to use this little cup today. It's bigger than these circles that I made for this blue one, but that's okay. So to make this project, you'll take your decorative paper, and this decorative paper could really be anything. This one, for example, is a piece of old wrapping paper. It's already been used. You can see there's old tape up here, and it's been folded several times, and that's okay. This is a great way to reuse this kind of product. So I've got my wrapping paper. I'm going to put it good side down, or decorative side down. Then I'm going to take my cup, or whatever I'm using for my template, and I'm going to put it on the table, on top of that paper, and I'm going to trace around it. And I'm going to trace 2 of them. So no matter what you do for this project, whatever you're tracing, you have to trace 2 of them. So I'm going to trace 2. And the next step would be to cut these out. Now I'm not going to cut these out because I've already got some cut here. So I'm going to show you what this looks like with your already cut out shapes. I've got my shapes cut out. I'm ready to go. I need my string. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this down. And I need to glue on my first shape. And I'm going to give myself a good 12 inches here of a tail where I'm not going to glue a shape, just so that I can give myself enough room to tie this onto whatever I want to tie it onto later, okay? So I've got my string here, and then I've got my first shape. And I'm going to put that shape decorative side down, and I'm going to put the string on top of it. So I've got decorative side down, and I've got my string on top of that shape. The next thing I'm going to do is take my glue stick, and I'm going to spread glue all over that decorative shape. So here we go. I have got my glue on. It's okay if your glue is not perfectly on every part of this shape. And I'm going to take another one of my little shapes, and I'm going to put it good side up on top of that piece I just glued. So you can see I've got a piece on my string. All right, and then I'm going to place my second shape. In this part, I need to think about how much distance I want on the thread between my 2 shapes. And one thing I like to do is to take one of the shapes and put it decorative side down, and then take a second shape and put it decorative side down right underneath it. So I have 3 shapes right in a row. And then I'll glue this third shape. I'll skip one and glue this one. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that guy. There we go. And glue it on this side. Okay. And then I'm going to cover that part I just glued with another piece, decorative side up. And what that did, right, putting that shape here and then skipping one, what that did was make a distance between these 2 shapes that's about equal to the 2 shapes in size. And you're going to probably notice and think about, like, you know, that's not exactly perfect, right? There was some wiggling going on when I put those shapes down, and that's okay for me. I feel like that's okay. If you're wanting your project to end up to be exactly spaced, you want it exactly, 1 inch or 2 inches or whatever between these 2 shapes, I would recommend getting a ruler and just making sure you're really careful to measure that out. For me, it doesn't totally matter, so I just kind of eyeball it or put those shapes down to help me give that distance. And basically what you would do with this craft, right, is repeat that until you have your decoration the length that you want it. And when you're done, of course, you're going to cut your thread so that you can kind of move on and tie this wherever you want it. Pretty simple, but there are a lot of different ways you can vary this craft to make it your own. So one example is to take something like a hole punch and punch some decorative edges around those papers. So here we go, 1, 2, oh, my hole punch is getting a little stuck, 3. Okay, so I've got some little decoration going on there. And another way you can make a little variation, if you have scissors that have one of decorative edges, like you might see with scrapbooking, you could use those to cut your shapes out instead of regular scissors, just to give yourself another kind of built-in decorative edge to this. One more thing I want to point out, if you were working on your shapes and you realize at the end that you have some little white bits hanging over, so there's some white there you can see maybe on the edge. You can see some here on this hole punched one. You can choose to, if you like, cut that off, right? You can cut off any overlap. I would only do this if it really concerns you or you think it's really going to show up in your project at the end. I think it's kind of clear when you have something that's red with a white inside. But other projects, right, it's not so clear. It's not so obvious. So for example, on these blue ones that I made, the inside, the bad side of this, or the non-decorative side, it's just blue. It's not decorated at all. It's just a blue paper. So it doesn't really matter if a little bit of it kind of overlaps, right? Or a little bit of it, those bad sides hang over. So I didn't cut those off at all. Another thing I want to point out, you might notice when you're kind of wrapping up that you have some pieces, like I just realized with this one, right, that kind of come apart a bit, like that. It just didn't get glued all the way. You might want to look for those pieces and then just give them another little swipe of glue and close them together. That'll help keep your project intact for a little bit longer. Okay, and the last thing I want to show you, I've been only showing you these examples with circles, right? And circles are pretty cool, but there's a lot of other shapes out there, right? You could do stars or ovals or whatever it is that you like. And I want to show you a different project that I did that used hearts. So here we go. So this is a paper decoration that I made using the same exact method, but instead of circles, I used these small hearts. And I did not have a small heart, toy or tool. So what I did was make my own little heart template, and I used that to kind of trace and cut out all these little hearts for my decoration. And then you're gonna see I've tied them all onto this stick. And I'm gonna use this stick to help me hang this up, maybe on the wall or in a window or something like that. So that's another way you can kind of use this project. I think these longer ones like this, right, kind of act a little bit like party streamers, right? You could hang up in a doorway or you could hang them in some other kind of decorative way. But something like this you could actually hang on the wall and keep for quite a while. And I think that's really cool. So I think there's a lot of uses for this craft and a lot of ways you could use it to kind of work for you. And I really like it because for a couple of different reasons. One is that it helps you kind of spruce up your space, right? It helps you decorate for holidays or decorate for a party or just decorate your room and make it your own, right? And I think that's really awesome. The other reason I really like this craft is because it uses a lot of resources. It uses these resources in a really nice way, right? So for example, I showed you this one that I made just with old wrapping paper, right? So old used wrapping paper that I was able to turn into something pretty cool. This one, the blue one, was packaging paper that came from just from a product that we bought that came wrapped in some decorative paper. So this is also just reusing something that we would have otherwise just recycled. So it's really nice to be able to reuse these materials, and that's another reason I really like this craft. All right, so that is how you can make some paper garlands or paper decorations. I hope that you've enjoyed this, and I hope that it inspires you to create some cool stuff of your own. Have a great day. Bye-bye.